All right, hello everyone, and welcome to this presentation from Operto as part of the Cloud-Based Passport Conference 2023. We're really excited to be part of it. We're gonna give people just a few seconds to filter in here, and then we'll get started chatting about how not to fail at mobile check-in. All right, I think that's everyone in. What we're going to look at today is 5 considerations to make sure that you have a successful deployment if you are considering rolling out a mobile check-in program. I'm Axel. I'm going to take you through it today. It's going to be a quick 10 minutes looking at the 5 top things that we would recommend that you think about as you're rolling out these programs. I work here at Operto as a director of solutions engineering, which means that we look at solutions all day and figure out the best ones for our clients. So we'll go through a quick introduction. We will look at those different considerations, a couple of quick pitfalls that you might want to avoid, and sum up with some key takeaways right at the end. Now, why is Operto talking about this? Who are we in this equation? Well, we have solutions that we apply to the entire guest journey as it comes to the post-booking process. So when you think about Cloud-Based, they do such a great job of getting that those listings out there, taking that booking, getting that payment and the communication, all those sorts of things are happening throughout the booking process. And Operto really kicks in once that booking has been made to look after the pre-arrival, check-in, and stay, make sure the whole check-in experience is really, really streamlined. And that's obviously what we're talking about with that mobile check-in. So without further ado, we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about the different things that you might want to keep in mind as you're thinking about mobile check-in, which might comprise things like taking guest information, pre-registration cards, maybe a mobile key if you want to get people through the door as well. All those bits and pieces we're going to put together in a really thoughtful way. So let's look at the first thing to keep in mind. When you're thinking about deploying mobile check-in, you really first want to think about what sort of experience do you want to provide to your guests? What sort of property do you want to be? What's the goal that you want to gain from rolling out a mobile key or mobile check-in solution? Is there a specific problem that you're trying to solve? So what we're talking about here is really thinking about your demographic. Who are your guests? What sort of resources do you have available? How do you want your property to be perceived, right? And we like to have our clients place themselves on a sliding scale between 3 different types of properties. Tech-enabled is kind of where you provide tech as an amenity. It augments the experience of your guest. It just kind of makes things a little bit more streamlined, but it's an additional piece. It's just something that kind of goes on top of your current hospitality that's driven by people. We also have tech-first properties where the digital experience is kind of the key aspect of your check-in experience, and where you have people on site who will still help your guests and all of that, but most people will go through some sort of digital process. So we're really leading with tech. And then we finally also have properties that do full autonomous structure where they have no front desk whatsoever. Everything happens online. They show up, they let themselves in. And that obviously requires its whole own set of practices where you're really, really speaking to a tech-enabled crowd, people who know how to deal with maybe more Airbnb style properties. So we serve the spectrum of these. And it's really important for you to think, where do you fall on the scale? Because it influences the solutions you may want to roll out. The second thing to think about when you're rolling out a mobile check-in solution is the value that you're hoping to get from it. So there's many different things that you might want to get from it. Are you trying to realize savings? Are you thinking about, reducing your operating expenses, maybe just having people less wasted time at the front desk, less admin, having people focus on more important things? Maybe you're even trying to remove a night shift or getting rid of the front desk entirely. Those are savings, right? But you're also maybe thinking about other ways that this could benefit you. Do you want to drive revenue through this? Do you want to drive upsells, promote your amenities? Or are you thinking more about the image of the property? Do you want to promote, your property as a young, hip, techie property? What is really the value that you see when you put dollar amounts to the things that's going to be impacted by rolling out a mobile check-in solution? Think about that value. Is it there? What do you want to actually achieve from this? An example here that we have on the slides is the Annex Hotel in Toronto, which uses Operto to do all 3 of these. they actually realize they've gotten rid of their lobby. They have, as you see here, a bar on the right, the coffee shop on the left, and they thus drive revenue because they're providing wonderful drinks. They have that image of that being a place where people want to hang out. It's not something they're forced through to just do admin and hand in their credit card and get a key card back. And they're also saving money because they're no longer having to think about staffing just for admin purposes. They're staffing with bartenders and people who really want to be there and drive value. So think about that when you're considering mobile check-in and how it's going to fit in with the type of property that you're running. Next, you want to think about how you define mobile check-in. So there's many pieces to this, and it might be helpful to see how we break it down. But really, this is up to you. What do you consider part of your check-in process as really key aspects of it? Because if you haven't defined it for yourself, how are you going to go out and find a vendor that will actually help you fulfill all the boxes that you're trying to tick? So for us as Operto, we actually split this into 4 different sections. We talk about check-in as a personal detail and ID collection, and we also do a strong ID verification where you haven't just collected someone's ID. We make sure that it's legit and you're not getting any bad actors into your properties. We talk about it as a guest experience side, where you maybe are promoting those upsells, amenities, you have front desk communication, and this all lives in one kind of beautiful guest portal. You might want to think about how payments are handled. Is this handled at that pre-check-in? Is it still handled at the front desk? Where and when is that payment being taken? And which steps do you need to fulfill to have that happen? And then finally, do you want to consider room access as part of it? So that's where mobile key comes in. Do you want to be able to tap your phone to the lock to let to have their guests come through, which is a really cool solution and maybe the most valuable thing that you could have at the end of a mobile check-in solution. But think about that because it's really gonna impact who and what type of mobile check-in experience that you implement in your property. Heavily impacted by those things, especially the access side, is if you need to think about hardware or not. So if you are thinking about hardware, that probably means that you're thinking about locks to a large degree. If you're doing a mobile key, now, if you already have BLE-enabled locks in your property, great. Then you can just integrate them. That's what's called native BLE. There's already BLE in your locks. Here at Operto, we actually offer an upgrade option as well, where you plug a little chip that we call a boost chip into your older locks, and that upgrades them and adds BLE to them. You get Bluetooth in your old locks with very, very low cost and effort. And depending on the property, you may even want to think about keypad locks. So if you're doing a really autonomous hands-off property, you want to get 100% uptake of guests. One easy way of doing that is a 4-digit PIN. So think about what sort of locks you need, or if you can just upgrade or use your old ones. If you are doing native BLEs, you have locks with Bluetooth built in, you may want to think about how do they connect outside of your current systems. Do you have that connection set up? Do you need to deal with any servers, any connectivity to the outside world? Are there any firewalls you need to bypass? These are all things you need to consider as you go through this. Do you need a kiosk? Maybe you do need a kiosk. Maybe you need something at the lobby that points guests in the right direction. That could be a kiosk or it could be a QR code. We like to be mobile first. So instead of turning the front desk around and giving people a kiosk, we like a QR code or even having people pre-checked in on their phone when they even show up. Turning the front desk around and just having guests handle the same things that the staff would do kind of seems a bit pointless, rather than having people just do those check-in processes on their phone, the kiosk in their pockets, when they're in their Uber or when they're killing time at the airport, right? That also saves you having to deal with the hygiene, the cost of installing these things, and dealing with the security side of things. So think about that. Lots of hardware considerations to discuss. Beyond hardware, you obviously have software, which is why we're here today. We're talking about cloud beds. We're talking about people that interact with cloud beds and integrate with cloud beds. So when you're thinking about how to roll this out, make sure that everything plays nice together, because if things aren't integrated, they're not going to be automated. And that's really key, because we do not want to create more work for your staff. It should be easier for your staff. They should be able to take the admin steps away from the check-in process and now just provide genuine hospitality, rather than spending all that time typing in credit card details or copying IDs and driver's licenses. Making sure that you have integration with your software vendors will also make sure that you have a really coherent journey for your guests. So it doesn't feel disjointed. It doesn't feel like they're jumping between a bunch of different systems. It should be really obvious to them where they go for information, where they go for their key, where they go for booking those additional services and restaurant bookings, all those sorts of things living in one place. And again, the key here is if everything is nicely integrated, that means we can also automate it and you don't have to worry about that extra work coming out of it. All right, those are actually your 5 considerations. 10 minutes, quick moves. So key takeaways from this is make sure that you have a clear idea of what you want your outcome to be as you roll out a mobile check-in solution. Don't just do it because your neighbors are doing it. If the whole property down the street is doing mobile key, great, but why? Think about why you want to do it. Is it something to do with reducing check-in lineups, or are you trying to drive more revenue through the apps and upsells that you have available? Really think about it. And to that point, mobile check-in isn't the one size fits all. You have to make sure that it's going to serve all guests. So you can't assume that everyone is going to download an app, for example. Make sure there's redundancies to make sure that this is going to work for every guest. Come and chat with your vendor and see how this will be implemented in a really thoughtful way. And again, tech stack must integrate seamlessly. That comes both into hardware and software worlds. So vet your vendors, make sure they play nice together. Don't just go and buy locks from Best Buy and get your software without making sure that they're actually integrated. Make sure everything's going to be a really seamless journey. And keep in mind those kind of fringe benefits. So if you are thinking about mobile check-in, that also means that you are now in a prime position to put other things in front of your guest eyes. So things like upsells, digitizing that guest journey, and being available to your guests in a really thoughtful ways, both pre-stay and in-stay. So take all those away. If you need some help with this, obviously Operto is available. What we really do is that we look at all these pieces that we've discussed today, and we apply them in ways that really eliminate friction for your guests and for your teams to be able to deliver that genuine digital hospitality. Generate more revenue, make sure that automation is the key factor in your operations. We can even do things like automating housekeeping, scheduling, things like that as well. So bringing everything into one place and consolidating that post-booking tech. And then, of course, empowering the staff, because when your staff don't have to deal with admin, then they can deal with hospitality instead. So we'll work with you on a really consultative approach. Craft those various parts of the guest journey, consolidate it in one place, and make it really seamless for everyone involved in this. So above all, we'll make sure that you get true value from any mobile check-in deployment. If that sounds like something you would like to explore, come and chat with us at operto.com or drop me an email at axel@operto.com. We would be happy to discuss any needs you may have. Enjoy the rest of the Cloudbeds Passport Conference, and we hope to see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.